Hi, my name is Hilary, and today we will be making a very romantic cookie. This cookie is called a rose for your date. And we'll start by making rose petal sugar. So what I have here is 1 cup of granulated sugar and some dried rose petals, dried edible rose petals. You can find these at a specialty food store or even online. And how you'll make the sugar is so simple. You just press these dried rose petals through a fine strainer. And the sugar is more for aesthetics. It's fragrant, but you won't get a lot of flavor from these rose petals. They do tend to jump out of the strainer a little bit, so be careful. But I got the idea for this sugar while working at a Middle Eastern bakery called Sofra, and we used to make donuts rolled in Persian sugar, and it was rose petal and Persian spice. So that was the inspiration behind this sugar. Okay, it looks like we have enough petals in our sugar. And you just want to go ahead and I just give it a mix with my fingers. You want a good ratio of sugar to petals because you do want to see them. It's really beautiful. So now that we've made our rose petal sugar, we'll go on to prepare our dates. We've had our roses, now let's go to our dates. And I use medjool dates. I like them the best. They're really fleshy, but all dates have pits, so we have to remove the pits. And I just remove them with my hands, and you take off the little nub at the end as well. You don't want to bite down on that. So dates are very sticky, but depending on what kind of dates you buy, some are less so than others. And I'm going to go ahead and chop these dates in half and then a couple times down the middle. They'll stick together, but I will break them up with my hands a little later. You just kind of want to get the process started, so it makes it easier later on putting them in the cookies. And then the last step in preparing to make our dough is making an oat flour. The dates that we put in this cookie are very sweet, so using oats in the flour is a great way to offset that sweetness and give a kind of nutty undertone. I like to hide the oats in this cookie by processing them with the flour and all the dry ingredients. However, that's just an option, and you can make these cookies without a food processor and just leave the oats whole. So I'm also adding a little bit of cinnamon and a teaspoon of baking soda. So the last thing I'm going to add is salt. There's 3/4 of a teaspoon. And so I'm going to process this all together until the flour is basically the consistency it started with, a fine texture. I'm going to just put this on and leave it for about 3 minutes. We are ready to put our dough together. I have 2 sticks of cold and cubed unsalted butter. We'll go into the mixer with a paddle attachment. And then I will add 1 1/3 cup light brown sugar. I'm going to cream these together on about medium speed until you can see no visible chunks of butter left. It kind of sticks to the side of the bowl and looks smooth and light brown. Our butter is creamed, so I'm going to scrape down just once. And I'm going to turn the mixer back on medium speed to add our 2 eggs, which I've already added the vanilla to. And I'm also going to add some rose water. It's only a little amount. That's an optional ingredient. Some people really love rose water. Other people vehemently do not. So it is an option, but I'm going to go full romance on these cookies and include the rose water. Once the batter starts to look wet, I scrape it down once. This just helps the process along so you can get a smooth batter. I'm going to turn this back on to medium-high speed and let it run until the mixture looks smooth and lighter brown in color. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes. So our dough is light, or our batter rather, is light in color. It's stuck to the sides, and we're ready for our dry ingredients. So the oat flour will go in all at once. First, I'll give the bowl just a little scrape down. Then add all the flour at once. This will go on low speed. I've mixed for about 10 seconds. The flour is not fully incorporated, but it's just starting to mix in. At this stage, you want to turn the mixer back on low, and depending on how sticky your dates are, I'm going to use my hands to throw them in and kind of break them up as I go. But I'll leave the mixer on low speed as I do that, and this is the final step in making your cookie dough. Our dough is mixed, and I'm a fearless baker, so be careful when you're sticking your fingers near to your mixer. You maybe want to toss them in a little more. But you just mix until the dates are all in and your dough will come together. It's a sticky dough, so don't be worried if it seems a little wet. Our dough is ready for scooping. I'm using a restaurant scoop. This is a rather large scoop. It's a 16, but I want really big cookies right now, so I'll use the big scoop. You can also use 2 spoons. This is kind of a sticky dough, but sometimes messy hands are just the risk you run when making really good cookies. So I'm going to put 6 on this tray since they're pretty big. If you do a little bit smaller, about golf ball size balls, you'll get about 22 cookies out of this recipe. And you can add another 2 cookies to your baking sheet. I'm using parchment paper. You can also spray it or use Silpat. All work just about the same. Now that the cookies are scooped, I'm going to put the dough in the fridge and chill it for about 20 minutes. Chilling the dough helps to have them retain a little bit of height, so you get that full bite when you take your cookies out of the oven and they don't spread out as much. Our final step in our romantic rose for your date cookies is to roll the cookie balls into our rose petal sugar. They look so beautiful when they come out of the oven. You can see the little rose petals and the sugar shines and sparkles on them. It is certainly romantic. And these cookies are going to bake in a 350-degree oven for about 15 to 18 minutes. You want to rotate the cookies halfway through baking just so they bake evenly, which is really just spinning the tray around. And if you have 2 trays, you rotate them top to bottom. That is the secret to really even and great cookie baking of all sorts. Here are our finished rose for your date cookies. You can see they are just gorgeous and they will make anybody swoon. I'm in love.